Hey everybody, today I'm going to cover a topic that I've noticed trending through quite a few of the comments that have been posted with regards to the interest in relationships, the difficulties that come about with trying to make sense of the whole relationship scene, and that doesn't just include dating, it's friendships, parents, family, the whole nine yards. It really hurts me, I guess, to see the struggling of people out there because I do take it to heart. I have been through that piece, and I mean, now, like I said, I'm in my 40s, so a lot of self-reflection has allowed me to come to terms with my personal situation. But I feel that we should maybe have a video about this topic, but specifically this will be towards INTJ females who are younger. So my heart goes out to you. I have been there. I have walked it, and it doesn't matter what you look like, what you act like, there is still the INTJ in there, and depending on the circumstances, your way of making sense of your world is based on the way society is reflecting on you, and you're trying to make sense of that. And it's super difficult because you're making sense of a time when you still internalize a lot from external sensors and that type of thing. So one thing I want to really stress is the idea of trusting your intuition. There is not enough to be said about this. Intuition is everything. It is, personally for me, even right now, like I said, I'm in my 40s, I use intuition to pick out even a shirt, because whatever the case is, if my gut doesn't go with it, I will not use it. And the reason why I do that is because I want to make sure I am strengthening that intuition, and my intuition told me to strengthen my intuition. So an example of that was in my 30s, when I became more cognizant of the idea of intuition. I didn't understand what it was, but I just had a gut sense that I need to build it. So I had, where I was visiting my family, and all of a sudden I'm like, nope, I have to leave right now. And I'm not sure why. There's no rationale why. I'm still here, so that means that maybe there was some sort of danger I was circumventing, say, traveling. But the fact is that it was very cognizant to me in that particular time, that it resonated still to this day, that was when I particularly started noticing my intuition and really using it. So every single thing, whatever feels right. So even if you're driving your car and you feel, oh, there's two different routes, you use the route that is part of your intuition. So I want to say that just because that will help hopefully guide you during relationships, because as intuitives and also as system analytic people, whatever you're using in one facet, even though it's simply just picking up a piece of clothes and that's what feels good to you, that's going to drive everything else, especially relationships, because you're building that intuition muscle that will help guide you down what works, what doesn't, and help build your self-esteem, because you are fantastic. The world out there can be horrible, and I can't speak to dating in the current world. I've said this before. I couldn't even imagine being an INTJ in social media world, because it is brutal. You don't have the ability to do as much natural meetings and figuring out what works for you, and the ability to just be yourself and figure out things a little bit less on everybody else's radar. So I can't imagine how you guys can handle going through this stuff. So my heart is with you. But pieces that might help is making sure, again, the intuition thing, but also, I'm just reading from notes because I wanted to make sure that I was jotting some stuff down. Getting to the point of us INTJ women are very different. We talk about it all the time, but we are very different. And that is good. We should be good. Like, we should be good and proud of who we are. So as INTJ females trying to struggle and say they're, thrown into, because they're intelligent, say they're thrown into college fraternity or that type of thing, and they're dealing with the typical frat house people and all that comes along with it, or dealing with typical males at that time who, no offense to males that are watching this video, but you can all appreciate that you don't mature until about 30, usually. So you just have to give yourself a bit of a break, and just know that you're awesome. There's the people that will come into your life are going to be in and out depending on what their value is, because you're going to cut them out pretty quick. But one thing I wanted to note is that, say, any individual, both female, male, whatever, that comes into an INTJ female's life, when you have a conversation with something or someone that is on your intellectual level, you're going to see a spark not only in your eyes, but in their eyes. And that's the piece that is the one you want to really explore further, because that person is acknowledging through the interest in the way the dialogue's going, as well as his visual components. They're seeing something that they're interested in. And if you are at a point where you're wanting to have a real relationship, those are the people that are the ones that you would probably want to explore further, not based on looks or where they're at in life, but they might provide an interesting opportunity to explore yourself, and as well as explore other people and open yourself up from your internal world and get to know another person's dialogue and their history and what made them who they are, and the fact why they are interesting and why the spark lit in their eyes. So I just wanted to make a mention of that. The other thing is, don't apologize for being alone. So when you're younger, a lot of times it's that whole idea of just going along with this big pack. And depending on who you are as an INTJ female, I personally was one of those ones that, because I wasn't sure of who I was, I went along with the pack, but I would be bored and then have to take off early. I'd always have to find an excuse to take off early or not show up. I'd be a person that would potentially bail. And what I learned as I got older is that, and it's still a struggle, is that your time is important. When you're struggling with going, say, to school or working a couple jobs or dealing with making sense of different things that are going on and changes in your life, you need as much downtime as possible. You don't need to hit a breaking point in order to recognize that you need to have time with yourself. Time with yourself is amazing, and as INTJs, I'm sure I'm not alone, that piece is something that you are giving as a present to yourself. So whatever that looks like for your downtime, just think of it as psychological self-care. So the other idea that I was just going to mention is when you're discussing things with people, say, like, a lot of things that I heard in comments were they're not sure on how to relate with people, or there's boundaries there. So an idea that I personally used was taking advantage of my lack of external emotion and using that to discuss things as more like emotional candor. So making things where, say, if someone discusses something and you're like, well, no, you'll never see me in a pink dress. It's just not going to happen. things like that, where it's like they get to understand a piece of you and understand a little bit about who you are, but you're not sitting there having to cry into your pillow and have heart-to-hearts with that person. Or say, don't take me to a romantic comedy. Like, it's just, you're gonna get bored. Romantic drama. Romantic comedies could be good. Romantic dramas, personally, not good. So the other piece that I wanted to mention is that as a young female INTJ, maybe take a look at what your family dynamic was like. So a lot of times in research I've read that usually there's a little bit of trauma because there's a disconnect between the parenting and who you are. So I personally found that very difficult. I did not have connection with my mother. I've spoken about that in other videos, but just know that you can take this opportunity in your 20s, even your 30s, to really analyze what's you and what's conditioned from your family and your parenting and upbringing, because this is what you get to do, and it's not up to them to decide who you're going to be, what you're going to do, what you're going to be affiliated with. And you don't have to be a rebellious person about it. You just are you, and being able to use the advantage of your non-emotional self to say, yeah, so I do this. Yeah, I like, say, whatever, badminton, or some sort of weird, like, say, Buddhism or something like that, and your parents have to make sense of it. It's not your job to make sense of it. It's their job to make sense of their world. It's your job to be authentic for yourself, because the more you're able to slowly stand up for yourself, the better you're going to feel. So I hope that this video helps, and please leave comments and any sort of future video suggestions that you're interested in. But I just want to sound this off by saying you as INTJ females are amazing, and it is difficult because you have no one to look to. There's so few. So you are going to be amazing once you use your intellectual and intuitive powers to fully understand who you are, and you're going to love yourself. It's only going to get better, and you're going to attract exactly what you put out there, because you're going to change the mentality of what you bring to the table and how worthy you are. So I hope that helps, and look forward to hearing comments. Take care, everybody.